Welcome to the Havilland Aircraft Museum. Over the years, I've heard quite a lot of myths about the Mosquito. So in this video, we're going to have a look at some of these things which members of the public are convinced are completely true. The Mosquito was built out of wood, and because of that, it was completely invisible to German radar.
The Mosquito is made of wood, so it'd be invisible to radar. Well, that seems to make sense. However, the Mosquito was not invisible to radar. The wood may have helped give Mosquitoes a lower radar signature, but the Merlin engines, props, radiators, guns, cannons, bombs, fuel tanks, armour, some control surfaces are all made of metal. Where necessary, Mosquitoes were flown low and fast to avoid radar. Later in the war, Mosquitoes carried detectors to help avoid night fighters, including the radar-equipped Me-262s. You definitely wanted to know when one of those was on to you. Okay, next.
It was so easy to make that it was created by furniture manufacturers using unskilled labour.
It's not fair to say the workforce that built the Mosquito were unskilled. De Havilland did, however, utilise a skilled workforce that wasn't building aircraft, those skilled in working with timber furniture, for instance. Not that the Mosquito's built like a chair. Its composite monocoque fuselage was advanced and innovative, and its wing was incredibly strong using expertly engineered construction.
Although it was called the Wooden Wonder, the main spar and most of the wing was actually made out of metal.
I can understand why some people would say that. The wing was very strong and carried two heavy engines as well as the weight of the armament, but it was made of wood, or more correctly timber, using techniques developed in the Comet Racer and the Albatross airliner. There's some metal in there, but the wing was made from timber. What's next?
The rocket-carrying Mosquito had a broadside equivalent to that of a light cruiser.
Ah yes, the broadside. I think HMS Belfast would disagree. Maybe the explosive charge is similar, but 12 6-inch guns firing supersonic armour-piercing shells weighing 112 pounds, 51 kilos, pack quite a punch. The Mosquito fighter bomber sometimes carried 8 rockets with 60-pound, 27 kilo, high explosive warheads, which could and did sink U-boats and ships though. By the way, the Belfast guns are pointing in our direction. I think the museum's just out of range though. And next?
Some of the most daring raids carried out by Mosquitoes were done by 633 Squadron.
Yep, the book and the film did much to keep the memory of the Mosquito alive, but 633 Squadron wasn't real. We've already made a video on the subject, see the link. Before we continue, a brief moment. If you value what we do on this channel, consider liking the video. It helps ensure these videos are seen. And subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of thing, and don't forget to click on the bell to be notified when we post a new one. Now back to the aircraft, what happens next?
It was built out of wood because of a desperate lack of the correct raw materials.
Building a World War II bomber out of wood might sound like a step backwards and desperate measure, but for de Havilland it was the material of choice. They were experts in plywood and balsa sandwich aircraft construction. And there were many good reasons to use wood. These included faster prototyping of the monocoque design, use of unused skilled labour from the woodworking trade, ease of repair, and not competing in the high demand for aluminium alloys. Birch plywood, spruce, balsa and other types of wood. These materials might grow on trees, but those trees are on the other side of a U-boat infested Atlantic.
All Mosquitoes were unarmed bombers without any defensive armament.
The original design was for an unarmed bomber, its defence being speed. But it was soon realised that an armed Mosquito would make a useful fighter. It never carried any defensive armament though. There were versions that carried 4 machine guns and 4 20mm cannon, and even in one case a 57mm anti-tank gun.
Its wooden construction made it one of the lightest aircraft around.
One of the good reasons for using wood that I mentioned earlier wasn't lightness though. Compare the Mozzie to other twin-engine bombers and fighters. It's fairly light, but not really exceptional.
It was impossible to build a naval version of the Mosquito.
The Sea Mosquito does sound like a myth. Most naval aircraft at the time were single-engined and purpose-built to fly from ships, and operating a Mosquito off a ship was no easy task. From Eric Brown's remarkable trials, the Mosquito TR Mark 33 was developed, and the Sea Mosquito entered service with the Fleet Air Arm in August 1946. Major modification work was needed to provide manually folding wings, and the de Havilland original rubber block suspension was replaced with hydraulic legs. The thimble nose housed a radar. The Browning 303 machine guns had to be removed, but 4 20mm Hispano cannons were kept. The most obvious difference was the 2 4-bladed propellers hanging off the 1635 horsepower Merlin 25.
The Mosquito's bomb load was equivalent to that of a B-17 Flying Fortress.
Well, yes, you could say that under certain circumstances, those being long-range missions where the B-17's payload was £4,500 to £6,000. That would normally not be one large bomb though, and sometimes mixed loads. On shorter range missions, the B-17's load was over £8,000, 3,600 kilograms, internal load, and it could carry more externally if required. But I hear you say the Mosquito could do 2 trips to Berlin in a day. Argue that one out in the comments. That's the end of this selection of misconception. Feel free to add any you've heard. And I suppose none of this really matters in the big scheme of things, except that it's good to get facts right, especially for us at the de Havilland Aircraft Museum. And if we do get things wrong, please call us out in the comments. It's quite likely that some of these myths and new ones will continue in this age of AI-generated content. The de Havilland Aircraft Museum channel videos, made by humans with love. See you at the museum.